ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download. Sports fans from all around the globe, I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and OMG, what a day it's been today. Let me see, 9 a.m., NCAA Insiders, college baseball, the regionals have started, upsets brewing already. Then conversations back and forth with good friend, Mr. Andrew McGinnis. Got a little tight schedule there, so we're going to go in the morning, the afternoon, Monday morning, 10 a.m., his channel at McGinnis Picks, NHL, CFL, MLB. Then we come back at 11 with Matthew George, some NBA, some WNBA, and some F1. He talked about who he likes on Sunday in the Spanish race there. And then 1:30, Travis Geiger back, CXO WagerWire, talking movies, NBA, NHL. I mean, we've covered the gamut. Now we're going to Friday Night Lights, MLB style with Mr. Scotty Webb. And we got a little eye-opener here. The Dodgers are at home, not on the road, at home. And their dogs, 0-5 versus lefties. Yankees come to town. Is this a preview of the World Series, a rematch here? Max Fried on the mound today. Let me just double check the numbers before I bring Scotty on here. Fried versus Goslin, and Yankees minus 118. So we're going to have Scotty talk about that. I want to ask him a couple questions before I give him the board today, because it's Friday night, a lot of games, a lot for him to break down, of course. We're at the 60-game mark. We're going to start counting back down 100 games, 98 games left in the season. And when you snake bit, when you're on a team and you can't pick them right, when you're off a team, you can't pick them right. And his Rays are one of the biggest offenses in the game right now. Yet when I was playing them 2 or 3 weeks ago, they couldn't get an extra base hit standing on second, hitting off of a tee. So that's baseball, no crying in baseball. So first and foremost, of course, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. It's simple, guys. Please, please, please do this. Go to Facebook. Introduce yourself. Follow Terry Smith. And then come on back to AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Steaks, chops, seafood, appetizers, wine. Terry's got it all. He's got 4 subscription plans as well. Set it and forget it like I do yesterday. Big box of New York strip, filet mignon, cowgirls. Right on the bone. He got some new products with some chicken. I am so super stoked. My grill will not stop. So, without further ado, Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, champ?
What's going on there, brother?
It's Friday. It's MLB. The boys, the kids are playing right now in the regionals. The Red Sox had a well-needed day off, and now they go to Atlanta, where one of these teams needs a jump start, and it's almost like put me out of my misery, have the Braves sweep them, and we'll move on. How's that?
Well, like I tend to think that the Braves are probably a little overrated, and I tend to think that people are too down on Boston. So I don't think Boston's like out of it. And it's, we always talk about how good, teams are in the American League East, but they're not that good. So, the Yankees are good. but most of the other teams aren't that good. Obviously the Rays are doing some things that people don't believe they can do, and I can't believe they do them either. But they're sitting there doing what they do, and you mentioned that they're the best offense in baseball. Well, they're the second best. Or, they're right there with Houston. They're playing each other. So I thought yesterday was a great spot to bet over, and it was 13-3. So hey, it worked out pretty good for me yesterday. I'm like, we got two average pitchers going yesterday, and the number was 8.5, and I got it at plus money. So I'm like, this is great. So I'm like, this is good. So that's what I did. I took that game and went over with it. But it's some of these games. Like I was all excited about this weekend because I know the Dodgers and the Yankees are playing, and then I'm like, well, great, we got all these new teams matching up and all these cards and everything's matching up. But it's a pretty tough board today. I thought, it's hard to find value when most of the spreads are minus 150 or higher. It's hard to dive in and really get a lot of good stuff in there. But we'll always find something.
Scotty, truth be told, you've known me forever. This is our 10th year of public service. There's no one more transparent than myself and yourself. There's highs, there's lows. What we try to do is stay off that roller coaster. I'm not the guy that goes on a 17-3 run, duck boats and parades, and then goes 8-13 the next 21 and nowhere to be found. I don't do that. I don't bother with social media and Twitter, every win, pronouncing it to the world, every loss, because my ECSI VIPs have been with me long enough. They know the deal. They know it's a marathon. And what it really stings is the newbies. They come on, they see the glory runs, and they're all excited. And now I haven't released an MLB game in 3 days. Why? Because my eyes are reading the board correctly. My sources, everything is correct, yet when we go to the window and we invest on these teams, it's the exact opposite. I've been talking about the Nationals to you. Every time I go against them, they become the World Series champs. Every time I go with them, they can't score a run. Your Rays earlier in the season, same thing. The Cardinals, we're on them, shutout. The next 3 games, they average 8 runs a game. So I took 3 days off from the MLB, regrouped. I fired a source. You're fired. And I added another source. How do you reset the eyes, Scotty? Because I'm reading the same thing you are. I'm doing the same thing, but we peel the onion back differently. I'm a first 5 guy. I'm a team total guy. You know how we work here. How do you reset the eyes?
Well, I've had some struggles with that this year. There's no question that I've had some struggles with that this year. And when I went back and I guess the hardest part to really figure out is why do you lose? I mean, that's the hard thing to figure out because you sit there and you analyze your data and you analyze what you've got and you're like, I'm on the right side and you still lost. So for me, one of the major snafus, and you've heard me talk about this since I've been on your channel here every time I come on. You got to bet home teams. You got to bet home teams, right? So what do? I go bet the damn away teams, and I bet them, and I bet them because when I make my lines and stuff, it comes out and there's some value to beating that number, beating that line, and that's what I'm trying to do, right? So what I did was, and I just did this recently. So this is only a last, say, 3 to 5 day change for me because I'm just tired of going. I was tired of winning a couple, losing a couple, winning a couple, losing a couple, winning a couple. I'm just tired of yo-yoing. So I went back and in my head, I decided that it's not the data that's wrong. It's not that the data is not going to change. So, and it's not how you see the data that's wrong. It's then becomes the sort mechanism to how you pick your picks. So the sort mechanism has to change. So what I did is I made a rule for my problem of betting these damn away teams is you have to have you can't just go have one thing be an option to bet the away side, meaning that okay, I got a dominant pitcher over another pitcher, I'm going to bet it because they're going to win. Well, it doesn't work like that.
No.
So the way I'm doing it now is if there are two things, you got to have a dominant starting pitcher and a dominant offense. You have to have both. If you have both, I will bet on an away team because the away teams do win, and the only ones that win, if you look at the records, are the good teams. They're the only ones. So I sit there and I look at that and I go, well, how do I bet that? Well, you bet that by making sure that you have the best offense and the best starting pitcher. Then I kind of caveat that with the idea of two other things. One being, doesn't hurt to have a good bullpen, because so if I look at it and I have a bad bullpen, I'm going to change my bet to a first five, right? So I'm not dealing with these bad bullpens, and I also want to have the idea that I don't mind in my head now. I've changed from going, okay, I got to bet minus 130, minus 140, minus 150 on these home favorites, because even if I win 75% of what I wanted to win, I'm not going with the yo-yo anymore and giving it back and taking it in and giving it back and taking it in. I'm still winning 75% of what I want. So that was a change in my strategy, Jeff. And since I've kind of done that, things have been really good. I haven't had much of a problem. Like this week's been, I don't recall losing this week. So it's been pretty good. So it's just a matter of keeping the refinement going, I guess, is the right thing. But that solution isn't for everyone. That solution was my problem when my betting. So I analyzed what I was doing, and to be honest, I was losing way too many bets because I bet the away team. So, for example, right, St. Louis is an away team today. And that also is why I created that bet score thing. So if I go to that and I go and say, where's St. Louis? There's St. Louis. So St. Louis has the dominant pitcher today. He's a dominant pitcher today. Liberator is a 3.92 Sierra. He's a 60 for the last 7 days in game score. He allows less than one home run, and his WPA is good. He hits every one of those major points of why you would bet on a starting pitcher. And then on offense, their offense is just better. It's not dominant right this minute. But I say that in a sense of how I use the bet score mechanism. But if I were to go to the offenses and I were to tell you that St. Louis is 2 runs better than an average offense right now. That's average, right? That's no big deal. But Texas is 16 runs worse than an average offense. Like Texas is horrible right now. So now I have a dominant starting pitcher and I have an offensive edge. And truth is, I have a bullpen edge too, and a decent line. So I'm sitting there going, all right, that's a bet for me. That's what it takes to bet an away team. So I don't have to have every one of those edges to bet a home team, because like here's one of the other things that I find interesting. If you're going to bet a away team, bet on a bad home team. So weighted runs created plus for Texas, they are minus 26%. So that means they're 84. They're minus 26% to an average offense at home. And if there's one, two, three. There's four teams today, and one of them is only 6%. There's four teams today at home that don't get the boost of being home, and Texas is the worst one. So if I'm going to bet against one of those the home teams, it's going to be like that. You know what I mean? Like you want to bet against those teams that struggle at home. The other team that struggles bad at home is Kansas City. They're 25% worse than an average offense at home, and they play Detroit today. But Detroit's been. I don't have a dominant pitching edge in that game, so I'm like, whatever, no bets. So my point being is that when I went and kind of looked at my own problem of ups and downs and backs and forths, I call it the sort mechanism, meaning that, okay, I got this piece of paper, and on my piece of paper, I got a list of all these games, right? And then I sit there and go, well, I like 7 of them. I'm not going to go bet 7 of them. So I start sorting them out with the ones you like. And I'm sorting them out by value to the betting line. And now I'm not doing that as much. That's still there. It's still a caveat to why I might make a bet, but these other things have to apply first. So I changed that. And when I changed that, I changed really what I'm betting on, which is changing the results.
If I go to Fangraphs right now, right? I know that's one of your sources. You for offense and pitching, you go into projections?
No. So I do that for the only projections I use is when I'm trying to get a number for, say, a starting pitcher, for example, and what his WAR is going to look like at the end of the season, because I'm trying to create a line and I want to give credit for what that pitcher is supposed to be. I don't, that's what I use the projections for. So if you go to Fangraphs where you're at, go up at the top where it says teams, click on team batting 2025. And then you're going to see all the teams. And then what I do is see where it says no splits there. I click that, and I want to see what they've done in the last 7 days. So I click last 7 days, and then there's my numbers. And I don't use the WAR numbers really. I use, see where it says offensive WAR. So WAR, weighted runs, weighted wins above replacement players. The WAR for like the Yankee or for the last 7 days is going to tell you that the Tampa Bay Rays are 2.3. Well, whatever. That includes defense. I don't really worry too much about the defense because when I make a bet on one game, maybe you might lose, but you might not. So whatever. I don't worry too much about the defense. I'm betting on where it says OFF, offense. So I sort them by offensive WAR right there. And that takes the offensive WAR is the offense part of WAR. So if you look at the Rays, they're 13.9. So they're 14. What does that mean? Well, that means if you had a bunch of AAA guys out there, that the Rays are 14 games better than a bunch of AAA guys over the last 7 days. That's what it means. And then Houston is 9. Well, look at the bottom of that list. Holy shit. You could put a AAA team out there and they would be better by 16 games than the Texas Rangers. That's what it means. So if you were a betting person and you knew that the Texas Rangers were 16 games worse than a AAA team on offense, you'd be betting against them every day. And you probably win because what are they, 2-8 the last 10, something like that?
So that is for the pitching. I broke it down for the week here, the last 7 days. Tampa Bay, Houston, Cubs, Pittsburgh, Boston, who is 5th right now. White Sox, surprisingly, 6th. Go from the bottom up. Texas, Colorado, the Angels, Minnesota, San Francisco, and Washington. And I'm telling you right now, Washington is right now my biggest pet peeve. I'm telling you, I was on Sports Grid on Wednesday. Kirby was pitching. I loved the pitching edge, the first 5. and Seattle goes out, lays an egg. Kirby lays an egg. Washington scored 6 in the first 5, and they scored 9 for the game.
Well, Kirby hasn't pitched good in 2 games since he's come back. So I'm not. I like Kirby. I think Kirby's one of the better pitchers in baseball. But when you come back from being on the injured list, you've got to figure it out. And two things have to apply to that pitcher. A, he needs to be able to use his arm the way he did before he was hurt, or in whatever part of his body was injured, and trust that. Two, he's got to build it up and get it to where it needs to perform where he's supposed to. He's not there. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like he's got 2 starts since he's been back, and I think the first game he allowed 6 runs, and this time he allowed 6 runs. He looks like a Baltimore pitcher.
Well, I'm again full slate. The headliner here: Dodgers dogs at home versus Fried. I saw they're 0-5 versus lefties. Right now, as we speak at the Circa, Fried versus Goslin. Fried opened up -115, now -118. You can get the Dodgers at home +106. Before I give you the full front stage here, initial thoughts on the rematch of the World Series.
The first thing I want to say is the Dodgers aren't the Dodgers right now. I don't know how to say it other than that. Their offense has the right guys in it, but they're not the same pitching team that they're supposed to be. So when you're looking at these teams and trying to figure them out and who's doing what, if I pulled up the Dodgers and I said, let's see, where are the Dodgers pitching right now? Dodgers. Dodgers. Let's do starting pitchers for the whole season, for example. So Yamamoto's been the guy that's their guy, and he's been decent, right? He's, in my opinion, he's an ace. He's not Skeens worthy or Scooble worthy kind of pitcher, but he's good. So he's up there. And then their next best guy for the whole season's been Dustin May. And you know what I mean? Like that's not what they signed up for at the beginning of the season, right? So they had Yamamoto, they had Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, and then when you slot Dustin May in 4th and Kershaw in 5th, and the pitching matchups to what they're going to see kind of makes sense. So today, for example, you have Max Fried, who, look at his numbers. I mean, holy crap. He's made 11 starts for the Yankees. Now, I mean, I get it, but whatever. He's made 11 starts. They're 10-1 in the starts he's made. So, and then when you look at what he's done against the Dodgers, he's pitched against the Dodgers. He's been in the National League all the time. So he's pitched against the Dodgers before, and he's done very well against the Dodgers. So the problem comes in is, who do the Dodgers have to match up? Well, throw Yamamoto. Well, it's not his turn. So now when you throw Gonsolin out there, Gonsolin he's just come off the injured list, and he's made 4 starts, and he's been average to maybe just a little bit above average to what a AAA pitcher is. So he's not been that good. And then tomorrow they're throwing what's that guy's name, Knack or whatever. That's who they're going to pitch tomorrow. And then I think they'll probably throw Yamamoto on Sunday or something. So there's 2 ways, in my opinion. You got a series price on this somewhere? My thought is Yankees are going to win this series. They're going to win 2-1 or whatever in this series. They're going to have better pitching matchups the entire way, except for when Yamamoto pitches. And the other side of it would be is if the Yankees are going to be road favorites every time, you might be able to get them as a small dog on a series price. I don't know.
Well, I something smells, okay? Because the series price right now is the Dodgers -155. And I think the key is, you got Yamamoto on Sunday. So Vegas is telling me right now, just reading the board, that there's going to be a split here. So technically, if you played Freed tonight, God bless you. But my point is, you sit back and you know the big number on Yamamoto on Sunday. You don't want to run to the window and play the Dodgers minus 155. If they win today, you're kind of free rolling because you got Yamamoto on Sunday.
I'm trying to look, make sure. Let me see. What do I got going on? I got Dodgers, and it should be Gonsolin, Knack, and then Yamamoto. And that's going to be Max Fried for the Yankees. And then Will Warren is going to pitch on Saturday. Now, that's no slam dunk for the Yankees. Now, Will Warren's been really good, though, for a young kid. He's pitched pretty good. And then that's going to be a huge number for the Dodgers. You're going to have Yamamoto against Yarbrough. It is what it is. So Sunday night baseball, man, you're going to have Yarbrough for the Yankees. So, but I will. Yarbrough's been good.
You actually have an out here. Okay? You actually have an out here. You could lay the Dodgers series price, hope for the split, and then you could come back and nail the Yankees on Sunday, and you can guarantee yourself some profit.
You could. Yeah. No question. I mean, that's what we talked about the other day with that other thing you were talking about, with that other ticket we had that we were talking about. There was nothing else to bet. So there was nothing to go back against like that, where, you know, if you have one side and it's probably good, then the other side guarantees you the win one way or the other. Either side, you hit one or the other, and you're going to do okay.
And that ticket, he's got OKC in the finals now. They'll be big favorites. They're waiting for the Knicks or the Pacers. He got the Oilers through. It's basically now a pick 'em. So again, most people don't have 50,000 or 100,000 under the mattress. You can't call up Jeffrey Benson at Circus, say, hey, can I get a $100,000 credit limit? He'll hang up on you. So my point is, you're almost at that point where you got to let it ride or figure it out somehow, some way.
Just click the button and give me the cash.
There's a big slate. We're already a half hour in, Scotty. I'm going to pull you to the forefront. I'm going to let you do your thing, go through the board, go highlight some games that you really like. So give me a second. I'm going to pull you to the forefront.
Yeah, I'll go real quick because I think it's pretty tough today.
Okay, give me 1 second.
All right, so today's board, obviously, we're not going to talk Cubs and Reds because they're already going. I do want to just preface this before I talk about any games. My opinion on some of this stuff is I think that the sports books are taking this home favorites thing a little too far. I'm having some difficulty with understanding. So, for example, Baltimore's line today against Baltimore against who are they playing? They're playing the White Sox, and the White Sox, they're terrible. But at the same time that they're terrible, let me see what the number is right now. Eflin is minus 200, and at some places, my number on that game is minus 175. So I think there's 25 points of value to the White Sox. Now, does that mean I'm going to go bet the White Sox? Well, a lot of times you should if you see value in a number like that. But and two, when I vetted the numbers out and I handicapped this game, it's amazing that in terms of a bet score and looking at the stuff that matters in a game, the pitchers, the White Sox pitcher does better than Eflin. So Eflin's a 4.67 Sierra number. His game score is like 27 since he's come back from the injured wrist. He's got a negative WPA, and he's allowing 4 home runs in 9 innings. Of course, it's only 2 or 3 games since he's come back, but he's been really, really bad. And the White Sox pitcher is not he's an average pitcher, right? He's not great Burke. He's not a great pitcher. And I get it. They're going to start an opener in front of him. But, you want to handicap the guy who's going to pitch the most, and that's Burke. He's going to pitch the most of this game. I forget what the guy's name is who's going to start that game, but he's a relief guy. He's going to go 1-2 innings, and that's it. And then and he's left-handed, so you're going to have a lefty-righty, kind of screw up their batting order kind of stuff. So, but what's good for the White Sox right now, Jeff kind of mentioned a second ago, their offense is going. They are 26% better than an average offense, 5.3 runs a game. They're getting the guys in when they get them on base. WPA is 0.63 to the positive. They have less than 22% strikeout rate and over 12 in terms of walk rate. So balls in play are good. Getting guys on base are good. And they're hitting 1 home run a game. That's way better than what the Baltimore Orioles are doing. So they get a ton of points there. They get nothing from their bullpen. Their bullpen's terrible. So, you could see a lot of value in a White Sox first 5, a White Sox plus a half a run in the first 5 innings. I think that when you're starting to look at some of these games, these bad teams aren't as bad as they're not as bad as they're some of the times the record is. They've been competitive. The second time, like the Pittsburgh Pirates, there's a good time to be betting Pittsburgh Pirates right now, because they're hitting the ball and they don't normally do that. And then they got guys that can pitch, Skeens the other day, what was it? It was 10-1 against the Diamondbacks. They scored 10 runs, for God's sakes. I think that was the last time I was on. We were talking. I broke down that game. So my point about this is that I think that some of these big favorites, especially like Baltimore, you realize. Let me make sure I say this very clearly. You realize that when you look at the standings and you go look at Baltimore has won 19 games. 19. The White Sox have won 18. So you can't sit here and go tell me that the White Sox are 200-point dogs on the line to the Orioles. That's not right. So, but at the same time, you gotta have the cojones to sit there and go bet stuff like that. I think there's good value there. I think that one. I think the Miami Marlins, same idea. The Miami Marlins, I looked at it, plus 1.5 is minus 108 for the whole game. Plus 1.5, minus 108. I thought that was a pretty good value. Now, I didn't bet it for one specific reason. If I go there, I can tell you. Miami, Quantrill. Now, you go and say, okay, Quantrill sucks. Well, he's a lot better than you think he is. Quantrill pitched a 52 the last time out. His last 3 is a 52. So his last game scores, his last 4, 52, 64, 39, 62. He's pitched 3 out of 4 really good games. And he's been one of the best pitchers Miami has. And his situation is he has started, where's Quan? He started 10 times. In those 10 games, Miami's 6-4. So don't lose sight of the idea that some of these guys, even though they're not great guys, they find ways to win. And he's a veteran and been around, and that's kind of the way it is. And it's the home team, right, against a team in San Francisco who currently is one of those teams like Texas. They can't hit. So if I looked at San Francisco and I go, San Francisco minus 11.1 runs to an average offense, 11. The Marlins are 3 runs better than an average offense. So I sit here and minus 44% weighted runs created plus, minus 44% worse than an average offense, the Giants. First game on the road against Miami at home. This is one of those spots where you sit there and you go, look, that's another good underdog spot for taking the 1.5 if you want to. You get a good number on it. My only concern with sometimes taking these 1.5s is I don't know how much value that is. How many one-run games are there when you look at a breakdown on a board of 15 games? 3, 4, maybe 5 at the most. So I don't know that the 1.5 comes into play. So maybe just take them on the money line and say the hell with it, and kind of go from there. But San Francisco's got a good bullpen, so if they get ahead, they can keep it that way. So, but my concern in this game was not so much all that was I think that we got 3 great starts out of 4 starts, not great starts, good to better starts for Quantrill. And he can get hit pretty easily, but it's a good spot, right? I mean, still, it's a good spot against the Giants. So those were a couple of concepts I just wanted to throw out there first. Phillies today with Walker, I think is it's one of those spots where you got Walker against DL Hall, who's making his first start off the injured list, and this is a little different. So when I say first start off the injured list, it's not the same as like Eflin. So Eflin's making his 3rd start, I think, now. But when I say they started earlier, went on the disabled list, and now coming back off the disabled, so they've already pitched. DL Hall hasn't really pitched. He's pitched 2 innings in relief, and that was just a couple of nights ago as kind of getting his feet back wet into the thing. So this is his first start, and really it's his first time coming back, off the disabled list. So it's a little different for a guy like that than it is for a guy that was pitching and then got hurt and that's coming back. So when the guy's pitching, gets hurt, comes back, don't expect him to be the same pitcher he was when he left. When the guy comes off the disabled list who has been hurt and hasn't pitched yet, you don't know what you're going to get. So you got to be a little cautious of all of those things. So that right away says I don't want to bet Brewers. And then secondly, I'm looking at the Phillies just off of a week this last 3-game series and a doubleheader off the Braves, kind of a letdown spot for them. I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, just washes the game away. So I don't like that. And what are the Phillies? The Phillies are minus. The Phillies are well, it says that was earlier. I had them they were at 127, but I think they're lower than that now. Look, I don't get it. The Phillies are a good team. They're the best team in the National League East right now. And the Brewers are not the best team in the National League Central. And they're on the road, and this is a home game. So, value-wise, it's all Philadelphia. I get it. Harper's not playing. But, how much does Harper really do damage to left-handed pitchers much? He does, but not like you think he does. So, I just don't – I think there's value here, but Philly's offense isn't really clicking right this second. Numbers-wise, if I were to tell you what they are, I can set it up and say offense for the Phillies. The Phillies, they are – 0.8, so almost 1 run better than an average offense. And the Brewers are minus 1.4 runs to an average offense. Well, there you go, in terms of runs. And then weighted runs created plus, Milwaukee is 7% worse than an average offense, and the Phillies are 2% better. So no edges. And then there's no edges on the mound. The only edges that you really, Walker's probably an edge for them. And the bullpen's probably a little bit of an edge. So they got a little bit of an edge, but and the little line's a little bit. So makes sense. So I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't tell you that it's a bad bet, especially with the number coming down as far as it has. And they're one of those teams that get a pretty good boost, Phillies, at home. 16% better than an average offense at home. And Milwaukee doesn't like to play on the road. They're 7% worse than an average offense on the road. And they are on the road. They're 11 and 18. 11 and 18. So they're 7 games under 500, and that's kind of the difference between some of these teams. Phillies are 19 and 9 at home. 19 and 9. So there's a good chance they're going to win these games. So this is one of those spots where you got to go, I got to bet a bad pitcher, because people sit there and go, I don't like Walker. Well, you got Walker and then the rest of the bullpen guys. And it's kind of a letdown spot. So that's why I didn't bet it. But I still think there might be value there. As we go on here, Toronto I thought was a good play at home. I just don't like the number. The numbers kind of, in my opinion, out there a little ways. This was, I saw the number earlier. It was minus 172. I think when I looked at it to actually start looking at betting it, it was like 175 or something. I'm looking at it now. It's anywhere from 180 to 175. Um, it's too much. You certainly don't want to play this on the run line. So I'm kind of opposed to that one. Although the A's aren't hitting, and the A's, you got to pick on these bad teams right now. And bad teams mean the teams that are in losing streaks. The Oakland A's right now, in the last, I should call them Oakland, Sacramento A's, the last 20 games, they've only won 3 times. Do you know that? In 20, they're 3-17 in the last 20 games, 1-9 out of the last 10. And this is a team that has been doing really good on the road, and they're losing a lot of games now. They're 14-15 on the road. So, and again, Toronto 17-12 at home. It's going to be a consistent theme. All these teams are good at home, except for Baltimore. Baltimore's not good at home. 9-17, and that's why I said, bet the White Sox. So then I started looking at some of these games, and I thought, all right, well, I'm not even going to talk about Colorado. They're plus 300 everywhere. I still think that's too high in this particular spot, but it's close. If it's 275 to 300, what's the difference? So then I thought, all right, let's look at L.A., the Angels, and Cleveland, because this is an interesting position. And that number on that game, LA, where is it? There it is. So it opened 150. It's down to 140 for Cleveland. So prior to LA playing the Yankees, they were one of the hottest teams in baseball. They were doing great. They had just come off of beating the A's a bunch of times, and they beat the Orioles before that, so they weren't playing anybody. So now they play the Yankees, and they played competitive games. I mean, what was it, 1-0 the last time they played? But they lost all 3. So now they go on the road, and they got to play Cleveland, who needs to get some wins in because they need to catch Detroit, and they need to make sure that they stay ahead of Minnesota. So it's a pretty important game for them. Ortiz is one of those guys that's hit or miss, but so is Soriano. Soriano is, if you watch him pitch, he doesn't have this magnificent stuff. He's got one great out pitch. I think it's a slider or something. And if he can control it, he's in great shape. If he can't control it and the guys aren't biting at it, he gets bombed. So I don't trust the Angels. And yes, Mike Trout's supposed to play today, but Mike Trout has been batting less than 200 this season, and he's now coming off the injured list against, again, a team that needs to win. So you want to bet Cleveland if you can. And I looked at this, and I'm like, how do I bet Cleveland? Well, my bet score came out, and this was Cleveland by 14 points. And where do they get the 14 points? They get 5 in offense, and the only 5 they get from offense is the WPA, which means when they get guys on base, they do knock them in. And LA's having trouble with that. And their bullpen, they have a better bullpen. So if the pitching kind of hangs out right and the offense is just a little bit better, and then the line needs to be a very marginal number, not a -1, not a big number. And that's kind of where we're at, right? We're at a big number compared to what the breakdown should be. They're at 140, and this should be more like 120, and then you could go look at it and bet it. And I think that would be a reasonable bet. Now, if that's the line, then you kind of look at it and go, "It's no value here. Move on to the next game." So the next one is this is Atlanta and Boston, and Jeff, this one's kind of one of those spots here where bet score comes out to Atlanta by 2 points, so that's no bet at all. And when I looked at the numbers, Atlanta's starting pitcher gets 15 points because he's under 4 on the Sierra number, and Giolito's 405. But they don't hardly, and then on the offensive side, Atlanta gets no points, and Boston gets 10. So when it comes down to like a first 5 look, it's 20-15. There's no value. Now, when I say all these numbers, it's based on a 100 scale. So if I were to go and say at the end, like Cincinnati was 63 today and Chicago's 57, Cincinnati's an underdog, that's a good one to look at, right? Because bet points rise, they come out, and the things you would look at to bet on tells you that these are a good spot. So you go look and then you vet it out a little further and you go, yep, I'm going to make that bet. Or you don't. But 63 points out of 100 is pretty good. And then some of these games you come out and you go, the Houston Astros get 95 points out of 100 today. That's like hitting every box except for one. It's unbelievable. So anyway, when I looked at Atlanta's and Boston, the final score is 25-23. They don't click all the boxes. They don't try to click any boxes. So what that tells me is it's wide open. It could go either way, all the way. And when you look at the pictures and the breakdowns of the games, Giolito and Holmes, who do you trust? I don't trust either one. Who's the offense? I don't trust either one, because either one could go crazy and both could not. And what about the bullpens? Well, what if I told you that Baltimore, Atlanta's really good bullpen is not really good right now? You know, they have a bullpen that their Sierra number is 4.28. Their weighted the win percent added is minus 95, 0.95 points. And then they're not striking out 10 guys per 9 guys per 9 innings. So the way that stuff breaks down, it's not really one of those spots where I sit there and go, I can get behind either team. So I don't really have an opinion in that one. I do like the St. Louis game, and I kind of broke it down a little bit before. But let's do it this way. The final score in that St. Louis, Texas game, and my bet score rating, for example, is 67-5. St. Louis knocks off 67 points, so 67% of the boxes they could check out of 100. And Texas gets 5. So they're missing 95% of their team, basically. And we talked about it a little bit. There's a couple of caveats here, right? So the first one, when I start looking at how this works, you have a pitcher in Liberatore. Liberatore, here's like his last 7 starts. Game score 64, 63, 53, 74, 41, 63, 65. Common theme, it's between basically 50 and 70 every time. So it's above average to great almost every time. And he had one bad start in there. And the issue, and there's no, his metrics are just average. Like he's got a 3.92 Sierra number, which is average. But he don't walk guys. 1.9 walks per 9 innings. His on base, his whip rate is 1.06. You know, he doesn't give up a lot of hits. He's been good in xWOBA, so the predicted measure of guys getting on base is in elite status. His WPA for his last 30 is a 0.65 to the positive, meaning that when he gets in trouble, he gets them out. So you can see it, right? It's kind of how he's doing things. He's not a big strikeout guy, even though he gets average number of strikeouts. And Leiter on the other side, he's got big metrics that are the wrong way. You know, 5.85 Sierra number, 5.57 xFIP number, 5.25 walks per 9 innings. So nothing that's measurably good. And then situationally, we talked about this a little bit. The Cardinals in the last 20 games are 15-5, last 10, 6-4. And then when you look at what's going on the Texas side, Texas is there they are. In the last 20 games, they're 9-11. The last 10 games, they're 2-8. So they were pretty hot. Now they're really cold. Now they do play decent at home. They're 18-12 at home. But when you go look at the bullpen, Texas bullpen is in the bottom of the league, and St. Louis's bullpen is in the average to above average part of the league. So then you go and say offensively, there's no comparison here, right? I mean, it's just not. Um, the Rangers aren't getting that home kick. They're minus 26%. They're minus 16 runs to an average offense. They're 72% worse than an average offense right now. They have scored 14 runs in the last 6 games. They've hit 3 home runs. They're averaging 2.7 runs a game. They're going to need to score more than that to beat the Cardinals. So then you got to have a pitcher that shuts them down, and they don't. The other caveat to it too was the Liberatore. He's lefty, and Texas has fixed lefties 14 times. They've only won 4 games. They're 4-10 against lefties, and I'm at minus 120, 125. I'm good with that, so I made that bet. Kansas City, Detroit, I think is one of those weird spots here again, where you've got Lugo coming off the disabled list today, and he's pitching for his. He missed the last 2 starts, so he's pitching today, and he's at a average to above average start. He's getting older, so his stuff isn't as good as it was a couple years ago. And Casey Mize, Casey Mize has been great. So then I looked at it and I thought, well, this might be a good spot for Detroit. Detroit is 16-12 on the road. They're one of the only teams that win on the road. 16-12, that's pretty good. But Kansas City, I told you they were bad at home offensively. Well, they still win. They're 18-11 at home, even though they're bad offensively at home. But what's kind of bothering me about this game is right now Kansas City is minus 25% on offense. They don't get on base versus the walks. They leave guys on base at a bad clip. The WPA is terrible, so they're not doing good. And at home they're minus 25%. And versus the pitcher type, versus right-handed pitchers, they're 17% worse than an average offense. So they're definitely a hard team to bet on, even though they win these home games. So I thought, let's see if we can find a better place, because even if you try to do this game by value, my line in the game was Detroit minus 106, and I think the number when I saw it last was 110 or something. So it's right there where it should be. So I'm like, okay, leave that one alone. This Houston game, I almost pulled the trigger on. So Houston lost yesterday 13-3 to the Rays, and the Rays have been really good, but Houston's been just as good. So if I were to tell you, like if I go look at this situationally with this Houston team, in the last 20 games, the Rays are 13-7, Houston's 12-8, so it's 1 game different. In the last 10 games, the Rays are 8-2 and Houston's 6-4. These 2 teams just played each other too last weekend, I think it was. So then you go and say, oh, the Rays are pretty good on the road. They're a winning team, 11-8. And then I look at it and go, well, Houston, they're 20-11 at home. They win at home. So you get a lot of these teams are good kind of thing going on right now. And then as it kind of breaks down the bet score, the one thing the Rays don't have in this particular spot is Pepio is a 4.69 Sierra number, so he doesn't get any points for that. So there's one of the boxes he misses, and that's a big one. That's 15 points. Valdez is pitching for Houston. He gets those points. He's a 3.99. No, he's a 3.08. And then they click all the rest of the boxes. Both of them click all the boxes almost on offense. Where Houston gets the extra kind of is they're averaging 1.5 home runs, and Tampa Bay is not. Well, it's only 1.4. So there's a slight, okay, well, it's maybe you give them 10 more points. So that game comes all the way out to 95-57. The bullpen for Houston is better than it is in Tampa Bay, but I think you're going to have a smaller advantage for the home pitcher, and I think you get a spot here, but that's minus 150. And I'm like, I'm not betting minus 150, so I just let it go. Washington and Arizona today, I thought I had a play. I thought this was going to be good because when I started typing in the numbers and looking up the stuff, I'm like, boy, Arizona's bullpen is terrible. And if you haven't watched Kelly pitch for Arizona in a little while, my God, his stuff has changed, and I don't know why. It has. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Elite best pitchers in baseball. He's getting guys out. He's striking guys out. He gets everybody hit ground balls. He's really he's the best pitcher that Arizona has, and theoretically, I would put him against almost any pitcher and go, this guy's going to hold his own. Because of what he's doing and how he's handling things right now. His pitch mix has changed and his velocity's picked up. He's not the same guy he was over since I've seen him. Anyway, that all being said, I tried to look at that and go, let's play it. Well, the Washington pitcher Irvin, I know he is ripe and primed for a bad start. So, I look at those game scores and he's built his way up over the last, say, 3 or 4 games. He has not had setbacks. He's ready to get crushed. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe Arizona's offense is good enough to do that right now. Well, they're minus 1% to an average offense. They're only scoring 3.8 runs a game. They're leaving guys on base. They're not walking anybody. They're not hitting a lot of home runs. So I sit there and go, maybe they're not. Maybe they're not ready. So that changed my opinion. And the other thing that changed my opinion was that was minus half a run in the first 5 innings was minus 146. And I'm like, this is a minus 200 game. I'm like, I'm not done. You know what I mean? Like, these games are getting out of control that way. So I just backed off of that one. Pittsburgh, San Diego, I'm just going to skip it because I got nothing of value there. Keller's been pitching way better than what most people probably know he's been pitching. And San Diego needs to win some of these games. San Diego, they like in the Dodgers, the coming month of June, those two teams are going to play each other. They're going to start sorting out the National League West. And then comes 2 games I like. Minnesota, Seattle. This is one of those spots where I like Zebby Matthews that's pitching for Minnesota, but he's made 2 starts. He's a young kid. He hasn't figured out how to win yet. And Brian Wu does know how to win. He has been the best Seattle Mariner pitcher. Now, think about this. He's been the best Seattle Mariner pitcher that has a staff of Gilbert and Kirby and Castillo and him. I mean, he's been the best one by far, not even close. By far, he's been the best one. And when you look at the numbers, he's a 2.94 Sierra, under 3. 62 is his game score for the last 7. That's over ace like. I mean, that's what he's been pitching like. He's got a .62 when it comes to WPA, which means he's getting them out. They get on base, he gets them out, gets out of trouble. Less than a home run per game, so he's good there. The Minnesota Twins on offense, for example, is really what set this off for me. The Twins offensively right now are 45% worse than average offense. They're not scoring. They're not getting on base. They're not doing the things they need to do. Their walk rate is 4.4%. So it's the low, I shouldn't say one of. It is the lowest in baseball. So they're not getting on base. They are minus 12% on offense on the road. So I like the idea that you've got a really good pitcher today in Seattle. Seattle's got a good bullpen, and you're going to run into Minnesota, who can't hit and can't score. So I liked that matchup. It was minus 130. It's a home favorite. There you go. That clicks the box. I'm betting that game. And then the other game that I did like, I do like the Yankees tonight. I like Fried. Fried's in a spot here where if I go look at the bet score numbers, he's a 2.7 Sierra number. He's 10-1 in 11 starts for the Yankees. His game score the last seven, not last one. Last 7 games is a 69 for God's sake. 0.95. So every time he gets on base, he gets out of it. Doesn't give up home runs. And Gonsolin's a 47.6 in terms of game score. So he's less than average. And he gives up 1.4 home runs per game. Now, the Dodgers haven't been crushing the baseball on offense, but they've been about average to an average team. It's just we're not used to seeing that. and the Yankees have been just barely above average. So, maybe you want to do this in the first 5 innings, but the Yankees bullpen's been really good, and I like them right here. The Yankees get 83 out of 100 points today, bet point wise, and the Dodgers get 38. So my line that I make for these numbers, I've got Yankees minus 130 today, and it's 110, 115, whatever, 118. So I think you got some value in Yankees. I'm trying to think where's the situational numbers, like Fried, as we said, is 10-1 now. One of the other numbers I use is OPS plus, and that's for pitchers. OPS plus tells you how they're doing holding opponents' offenses down, and it's graded on a 100 scale, right? So it's on base plus slugging, and it's a predicted measure, but it's graded on 100. So if it's 100, it's average, and if it's below 100, it's good for the pitcher side. If it's above 100, it's good for the offense side. Well, Max Fried over the last 28 days is 13. That means he's 87% better than an average pitcher at controlling the opponent's offense. 87. On the road, he's a 48, so he's 52% better. And at night, he's a 35, so he's 65% better. Just click the box, click the box, click the box. He's doing everything he can do to win these games. And Gonsolin's a 122, means he's 22% worse than an average pitcher at controlling the opponent's offense. At home, it's a 137. So this is an offensive park, and it creates a jump for offense. There is no bigger jump for an offense than it is for the Dodgers. The Dodgers at home offensively have a 43% improved offense compared to when they're not. Or even, I'm not compared to when they're not, compared to an average offense. That's a lot to overcome. Well, the Yankees on the road, they're pretty good. 31% better than an average offense on the road. So there you go. So it kind of wipes that aside. And then you kind of look at it and go, well, Yankees against right-handed pitchers, 31% better than an average offense. Dodgers against right-handed pitchers or left-handed pitchers, only 19% better than average offense. And over the course of the season, I know Jeff mentioned, I think it was like 0-5 or something. For lefties, they've faced lefties 17 times. They're 7-10, the Dodgers. So this is not just a lefty; it's a good one. So I like that. I think that those are where I go. So I made 3 bets. I bet on St. Louis today on the road, but they matched the boxes. Starting pitcher, offense, bullpen, plus Texas is 4-10 against left-handed pitchers. I bet Seattle at home, and I bet the Yankees, who, again, starting pitcher, offense, bullpen, all matches. So, and they're minus, 111, I think is what I got them for. Maybe 115, something like that. That's what I got for you today, Jeff.
Great job as always, Mr. Scotty. We want you to enjoy the weekend. I checked the slate on Monday, a little short, but what I plan to do is I'm going to hop on with Andrew in the morning to talk some CFL, some NHL, have a afternoon appointment from 1 to 2. Going to bring you on Monday afternoon around 3 o'clock if you're available. We'll talk weekend recap. We'll obviously recap Sox Braves. We'll recap the Yankees Dodgers, and then we'll talk the evening slate. How's that sound?
It's all good, man. It's baseball, dude. We can talk baseball till, I turn the color of my shirt. It's not hard.
Want everyone to have a great weekend. Behave yourselves. Treat yourselves right. Sunday, June 1st. Me and Scotty will be back June 2nd. Stay in your lanes. Baseball's a marathon, 162 games. So if you're struggling, you can take a couple days off, reset. That's what we did the last few days. We're going to jump back in tonight. We're going to enjoy the regionals, of course. NHL Stanley Cup starts next week, and then the NBA Finals as well. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, the one and only Scotty Webb at Beam 'em Up Scotty MLB himself. We wish everyone have some fun this weekend, and we'll see you soon.